Hello, Dr. Evelyn Higgins. Thank you for joining the Parents Around the World Summit. How are you doing today?
I am wonderful, Terrain, and thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this. I'm privileged.
The pleasure is all mine. I know that we're going to talk about something that is close to your heart, that's close to my heart, and fits well within the theme of the summit, and that is mental and behavioral health. So
Right.
do me a favor, please. Introduce yourself, and of course, the floor is yours to speak about this topic.
Sure. So my name is Dr. Evelyn Higgins, been in clinical practice for some 36 years and really segued into the area of behavioral health, mental health, and addiction because really, Terrain, so much has changed for good with the science that we've learned when it comes to these areas. But what I found was we were not employing the information. It was like we were doing these science papers and giving ourselves a pat on the back, but then we weren't disseminating that information to the people who really needed to hear it. And to me, that was an absolute crime because, so much, as I said, has evolved in diagnosing and being able to prevent and then doing what we call precision medicine of looking at an individual's DNA and saying, what do we need to do for you? Not for the person that comes in the office before you or after you, but what do we need to do for you? What I always get people to wrap their head around this idea is that there's over 8 billion people in the world with over 8 billion different sets of DNA. Yet we treat everybody exactly the same. And then we wonder why we don't get the results. It's crazy. That's the definition of insanity. And the science is here. That's the whole part, right? So, what we do is look at truly an individual's blueprint. What are you made up of? So we know what we need to do specifically for you to optimize. I mean, everybody within our DNA, we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses. That's the way it works. No one has the perfect, absolute perfect genome. But it's in knowing what your master key is, what your blueprint is, of where we can say, this is the best way to optimize you. And that is like an incredible amount of knowledge that can really be a game changer in people's lives. The amount of patients we see, children with behavioral issues from ADD to ADHD to spectrum, right? It's all, we've got to look and see what the nuances are for that individual. This blanket, let's just do this, obviously doesn't work. We've been trying that over and over again. So science has taken us to this place to where we have this ability to do it. And my thing is, it's we're not sharing it with the public. We're kind of keeping it as the best, greatest secret. Well, it doesn't do anybody any good if it's not disseminated. And to me, the perfect place is with young people, with children, because if we can prevent things from happening, my gosh, isn't that what we're all after? When even you look at how behavioral health then goes on long enough to get to the addiction side of things, how does that happen? Well, it always starts with some underlying, be it anxiety, be it depression, be it ADHD, that goes untreated properly or unrecognized. And then this person starts self medicating, not even realizing that's what they're doing because, whoa, I got to stop all this that's going on inside of me. And it becomes this vicious cycle that we can't get out of. Today, we have the knowledge, we have the ability to change that. So that's kind of my thing of like, everybody needs to know this is available.
What do you think then are some of the obstacles that maybe people will face where in identifying what they need and of course identifying what they should receive?
Sure. Great question, Terrain, because I speak literally all around the world. And people will say to me, I've never heard of this. I mean, my gosh, you're explaining this and it makes so much sense. I need this for me or I need this for my loved one. But where do I get it? What do I do? I don't know how. How do I get my doctor to order this? And that's the reality. It's like this is so new, and in science, new is like, what the human genome was mapped out in 2003. In 2008, we looked at the 1,000 most important genes for diseases and conditions. In 2015, we looked at the ability to look at where these errors in coding are. So you say, well, 2015, that was even 10 years ago. In science, that's like a millisecond ago because it takes time to get it out there. It takes time for the clinicians to say, well, I didn't learn that in school. Well, because we didn't know that when you were in school. So now this is new information that needs to be taught, right? So that takes time. So that would be an obstacle, right? But that's what we do. We literally see patients from all over the world. We either drop ship the lab kits to you, or people come to us in our Florida office or Atlanta office in the States, or literally patients from all over the world. So to remove that obstacle, that's one of the big ones is, where can I get this done? But that's why it's so important for me to disseminate this information, because there is a place that we can get it done. And then for people understanding, they may say, well, I've never heard of this. You probably haven't, right? You probably haven't. So I'd say to people, go do your own research and look up and say, are there actual genes that are linked to anxiety? Are there actual genes that are linked to depression? And if so, can those be changed? And the answer is yes. And that's why the power is given back to the individual today with this science, because there's the term genetics and there's the term epigenetics. That's what we do, epigenetics. So we can actually turn on and turn off the way the genes operate in someone's body by their environment. That's how epigenetics changes, by someone's environment. It's always been there. But if their environment didn't cause a stressful situation, those genes that we didn't want to see come out never did. And then all of a sudden, they're in an environment where there's a lot of stress. There's a lot going on in their life, and everything that was always there within their genetic makeup now rears its ugly head and says, hey, I'm here and I'm awake. That's how we see people change. I have parents come to me and say, I've never seen this behavior in my son. He's 20 years old, 19 years. I never saw this behavior. How could this be? I'm like, well, tell me what happened in his life between 19 and 20. Well, he went away. He went away to college for the first time. He's away from home. He's trying to handle school. He's got a part-time job. He's got all new friends. He's making all his decisions on his own for the first time. I'm like, okay, so his entire environment has changed. Those genes that were always there are now showing up in this stressful environment for him. So doesn't it make sense, knowing what we're all made up of, what's our blueprint, what's our code, before we go into the game of life and say, hey, what do we need to make better? Doesn't it make sense? Right? So obstacles would be, okay, where can I get this? We just talked about that. It would be like, how do I find out more about this? Really, Google epigenetics. What is it? Is this possible? And you'll see, yes, this is the beauty of science. Because to me, Terrain, what this does is gives the power back to individuals. You're no longer a prisoner. You're now like, whoa, you know what? Yeah, let's change this for the better.
I absolutely love that, especially the last part where you said that it gives the power back to the person,
Yep,
right? You've probably seen this, and either in your profession or in your personal life, so many people feel powerless
correct.
in their life, right? Especially when it comes to health, especially when it comes to mental health, especially when it comes to physical, especially when it comes to
Yep,
spiritual health, emotional health. Like these are the
yep,
pillars
yep.
of health, right?
Thank
The
you.
four
Right,
pillars.
right,
So when you have people who are struggling to resolve one, two, God forbid, three and four of them,
right, right.
right? It can have a devastating impact. And then I guess I would follow up with that is when someone realizes it, because that's a big first step, right? I need help.
Right,
I want
right,
to change this.
right.
And once they start to do the work and they meet with someone like you or they meet with other people, what are then the benefits to their life, short term, medium term, and of course, long term.
Oh my gosh, it's a game changer. It's literally a game changer because, when someone's experiencing, whether they know it yet, it could just be they're feeling these symptoms, but it's not manifested problematically in their life yet, right? But they know, hey, I'm just feeling different. Or we get to the next step where it has manifested. When you identify what's causing that, Terrain, I can't tell you when I go over results, one of our clinician goes over results with our patients, our clients, there's tears of joy because they're saying, I have always felt everything that you're telling me. And I've just been like, no, 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 that's not everything you just said. Every word you said, I have felt my entire life. I feel validated for the first time because there's what we call a clinical correlation to every one of these, be it the brain chemicals we look at, the genes that we look at. So they all have what we call a clinical correlation, meaning they make your body think and act a certain way. So when we see the results, either where they should be or lower than they should be or higher than they should be, they're out of range. We know, okay, what you see symptomatically is the appearance of this. You see symptomatically, and people sit there like, you've got to be kidding me. That's exactly who I am. That's exactly how I felt. This can change? Yes. The first step is identifying it, or else we're just throwing darts, hoping we land someplace close. Example in that, what I just said, throwing darts with SSRIs or antidepressants. There's a gene that we look at that tells us if an antidepressant is even going to be effective for this individual. Terrain, I can't tell you the amount of people that we see that have been on SSRIs for decades. First off, they were never meant to have someone be on 10 years, 20 years. It was like, okay, you're in a really tough spot in your life right now. You're feeling depressed. You're feeling hopeless, like you can't get out of it. Let's give you this antidepressant for this short period of time. No, people are living on them now. And we come and we do their labs, and what an antidepressant is supposed to affect is serotonin, that feel-good chemical. And we see that their serotonin is in the tank. They don't even they're hanging on by a thread. So first off, that SSRI, that medication, never did anything for them. It never helped them. And they've been on it for decades. So their liver, their kidneys, their bladder, everything had to process this. And if we were getting positive results, I'll say, you know what? It outweighs. If your life is better because of it, let's go. But when that's not the result, no one says, why isn't it working? What happens is they tell the individual, well, let's half it, let's double it, let's switch it to this, let's do that. And they don't get better, then they pin it on the patient. You just want to be that way. This works, this stuff works. It's just you wanting to be this way. That destroys someone emotionally. When the fact is, no one took a deeper dive to see, was there a genetic reason that this wasn't working for this individual?
When they do the deeper dive, then and they figure out that it could be their genetics, let's say the parents, the
Right,
family, the children.
right.
And you mentioned something earlier on. How important is it to identify then in the children the impact of this behavior, of this process?
Oh my gosh, it's so important. First off, for the child themselves, that we can make corrections and this can be optimized. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It means that there's a weakness here and we've got to handle this weakness. That's it. But it changes that child's life. The trajectory of their life will change dramatically. It changes the parents and the whole family's life. I'll give you an example. We had at the time, she was 3, a foster child who became an adopted child to a family. The child was born addicted, neonatal alcohol syndrome, drugs and alcohol in her body. This kid coded 5 times before left the hospital. I mean, tragic, tragic, tragic story. She makes it out. She's in her family now. The foster family adopts her. She's now in school, first grade, and she had been asked to leave several preschools for her behavior prior to it. So while this child wasn't using drugs or alcohol, she was already predisposed to everything that we were seeing. It was showing in her behavior. So the parents came to us like, hey, this is the third school. Like, what can we do? Let's take a look. Let's do a panel. Let's see what's happening with her. She struggled in school. So she was now in first grade by the time we were working with her. And she was in Florida. And in Florida, they have testing throughout the year. So we saw the test where she started in math and in reading, and it was way below where she should be. 3 months later, she was here. 6 months later, she was here at the end of the school year. Terrain, I can't tell you, right? Beyond that, I get goosebumps saying this. Beyond that, she won the character of the school award at graduation. So not only had life become easy for her academically, but socially. This kid was just 6 years old then. Think about the impact she will have in her own life for the better, but in everybody's life around her. How she is going to raise other people up because of the person that she was able to become. And I mean, that's what we're doing. We're all in this together. That's what we're doing.
I hear stories like that and I reflect on all those children, let's say years ago, who felt out of place, who felt like they didn't belong, who felt like they
Right,
weren't going to grow up into anything.
right.
And now we have new ways to approach them, new ways to assist them.
Yes,
When you look back on, let's say, all the generation of children, either the ones you've come in contact with or even the ones before us,
right.
how does it feel to know that you have a way to help them now for the better in their life?
Oh my gosh, there's no better feeling. That's my dopamine hit. That brain chemical that makes us feel good. That's my dopamine hit because oh my gosh, to see someone's life change for the better. There is nothing better. There is no better feeling. And not just like I said for that individual, but for everybody that they come across. It's the grassroots to change.